Along with Virginia's allegation of trafficking, Andrew Lowney, who has written the royals' unauthorised biography, claims to have laid bare other potential crimes, almost all driven by Andrew's hunger for cash.
Tonight, we enter the world Andrew and Fergie pray the public never sees. A world sealed behind a locked cabinet deep inside Buckingham Palace, a file so explosive, so devastating that even the threat of its existence has kept the former Duke and Duchess of York silent for years. Because the truth is simple, Andrew and Sarah aren't just embarrassed, they're terrified. Terrified of what the monarchy is ready to unleash if either of them steps out of line.
And the accommodation will be bankrolled by the king. The same can't be said for Fergie, who's homeless and not swimming in cash by the looks of it.
Yes, she's hoping some sort of generous benefactor will take her in. But the thing is, that's been happening now for 30 years.
To the public, Andrew and Fergie appear almost harmless these days. Two faded figures tucked quietly on the sidelines of royal life. No titles, no duties, no relevance. A pair whose scandals belong, supposedly, to a distant past. But inside the palace, that illusion doesn't exist. Because while the world mocked Andrew's disastrous Newsnight interview, while tabloids covered Fergie's financial chaos and endless benefactors, while the monarchy tightened control around them, a different conversation emerged behind closed doors. Senior aides began whispering about one chilling question. What happens if Andrew or Fergie ever decide to talk? What if the two people who know the most, who were present the longest, who witnessed decades of private behavior, private meetings, private friends, and private indiscretions, what if they became the next public threat? And so, according to insiders, Buckingham Palace acted. Not with statements, not with PR, but with something far more ruthless, a comprehensive, tightly locked dossier. Documenting over 30 years of their private world, a file designed to contain them, restrain them, silence them, not gossip, not rumors, facts, records, correspondence, patterns, people, all curated with one purpose, to keep Andrew and Fergie afraid because the crown cannot, and will not, survive another York-level scandal.
Day after the infamous photo of him with 17-year-old Virginia Giuffre hit the papers. That email was sent months after he claimed he'd cut ties with Epstein. If true, it could mean he lied during his infamous 2019 Newsnight interview.
The story many believed was over, this wasn't. Not even close. When Virginia Giuffre's case re-emerged globally, even after her passing, it reignited the darkest chapter of Andrew's life, the infamous photo. The claims, the denials, the timeline that never quite made sense. But palace insiders say something else happened behind the scenes. New documents surfaced, emails, communications, exchanges dated months after Andrew publicly claimed to have cut ties with Epstein. If authentic, they contradict statements made in his 2019 interview. The same interview the palace begged him not to do. The kind of contradiction that doesn't just damage reputation, it destroys it. Upstairs in the palace, senior aides panicked. If Andrew's narrative could unravel this easily, what else was buried that could unravel next? And so the dossier began. But that was just the beginning.
Because the king isn't there to exercise some grip. Prince William is quite rightly with his wife and family while she's recovering and having treatment for cancer. Nobody exercising any grip.
No.
Princess Anne should have handbagged him.
I don't know.
Next came something even more disturbing. The leaked emails in which Andrew reportedly wrote that he couldn't take any more pressure. They were raw, emotional, desperate, far more damaging than anyone expected, because they hinted at a side of Andrew the public never saw. A man losing control. And worse, the emails hinted that there were more messages, more correspondences, more fragments from years ago still floating around private inboxes the palace couldn't control. For Buckingham Palace, this was a nightmare, because if a single inbox contained this much combustible material, what existed in the archives of governments, foreign dignitaries, and former friends? The dossier expanded again. Hidden names, hidden trips, hidden relationships, pieces of a puzzle the monarchy needed to understand before anyone else did.
Prince Andrew is being stripped of his prince title. But why now? Buckingham Palace said the king has today initiated a formal process, and his younger brother will now be known as Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. He gave up his other titles earlier this month, including the Duke of York, after facing questions about his private life.
What forced the palace to escalate the most was pressure from two people, Prince William and Queen Camilla. William was furious that Andrew insisted on issuing self-important public statements, as if he were still an active royal. Every time he opened his mouth, the monarchy looked weak. Camilla, however, was even more blunt. She reportedly told the king, "Andrew and Sarah are destabilizing this institution. They must be contained." She has never tolerated chaos, never tolerated scandal, never tolerated the Yorks' endless trail of recklessness. The king resisted at first, but the pressure from William, already carrying the weight of Catherine's health, the monarchy's public duties, and a shrinking royal workforce, became impossible to ignore. Within weeks, the palace committed to compiling the file, not as a defensive measure, as a weapon.
The terms of the lease say that as long as Prince Andrew maintains the upkeep of the property and the repairs and the renovations, then he is within the terms of the lease, and therefore it is very difficult to remove him or for him to move.
What exactly is in this dossier? Sources describe it as extensive, decades long, potentially catastrophic. Among the entries allegedly included reports from overseas tours involving late-night visitors at hotels, security complaints about undisclosed detours for private dinners, witness statements about Andrew's temper and entitlement, financial irregularities flagged quietly but never investigated, names of individuals no longer mentioned publicly, emails involving individuals tied to Epstein long after his conviction, and then there are the claims the public did hear, now cataloged and verified internally. 40 escorts reportedly flown in during a Thailand visit. Jain Singh, sex workers allegedly entertained during Hong Kong trips. His insistence on traveling with personal valets and ironing boards. Yum, the staff complaints about verbal explosions. Ma, the private meetings with businessmen offering hospitality packages to the palace. It was a pattern of judgment so poor, so reckless, so uncontrollable. It had to be documented to protect the monarchy from future collapse. But Andrew himself isn't what scares the palace the most.
Sarah Ferguson has broken her silence over rumors about remarrying her ex-husband, Prince Andrew. Speaking to Bella magazine, Sarah said, "I get asked that all the time. We are very happy as we are now."
The most explosive entry in the dossier is not Andrew, it's Sarah. According to biographer Andrew Lowney, Andrew knows everything, but he will never talk. He told everything to Fergie, and that is why she's the danger. Sarah was there for everything. The private dinners, the whispered conversations, the financial deals, the strange names that appeared and disappeared, the trips unrecorded in official diaries. And she talks, often casually, often publicly, not maliciously, but freely. Combine that with her financial instability. The benefactors, the unpaid debts, the desperate offers, the £15,000 loan from Epstein, the attempted cell access scandal, the publishers circling her for a new memoir, and her move to Portugal, away from royal supervision. And she becomes the palace's worst-case scenario. An unpredictable narrator holding decades of sensitive information. If she ever writes again, one palace insider said, we cannot risk what she chooses to reveal. The file, therefore, serves as a reminder, not a punishment, a warning.
I suspect he doesn't. I don't think he has much self-awareness. I mean, that thing that was apparent from that Newsnight interview, wasn't it? That was the thing that came across, I think, most strongly.
And he thought it had gone well.
Yes, he thought it had gone well. He doesn't really have any self-awareness. He doesn't really understand how people see him.
The consequences of this operation are already reshaping the Yorks' lives. Andrew has been stripped of every symbol of status, his titles, his military patronages, his public role, even Royal Lodge. The final fragment of his former life is slipping away. He is being moved into a smaller controlled cottage on the Sandringham estate, limited access, limited staff, limited freedom to invite friends that raise questions. It's not a downgrade, it's containment. Sarah, meanwhile, is being managed differently. Not through force, through pressure. A quiet word here, a reminder there, a suggestion that certain documents exist, and that the Crown would hate to see them misinterpreted publicly. Their daughters feel the impact too. Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie are walking a tightrope, desperate to protect their father, but painfully aware that aligning too closely with him risks the careers, patronages, and public roles they've worked years to build. The media, sensing movement, has intensified scrutiny. Every interview Sarah gives, every financial headline she makes, every photograph Andrew appears in. The coverage grows sharper, colder, more suspicious, because the world now understands what the palace has known for decades. The Yorks are a ticking clock.
It was a case for his basically financial corruption, the way that he abused his position as the special representative for trade and investment between 2001 and 2011. He was helping his business chums do business, for example, in China and the Middle East.
And so we arrive at the truth. The monarchy has never spoken aloud, but has acted upon fiercely. Andrew and Fergie are living in fear, not of the public, not of the press, but of the file containing the stories they thought were forgotten, the behavior they hoped was buried, the names they assumed would never resurface, a file that now hangs over them like a shadow they can never escape. A file that exists solely to keep them silent, because within those sealed pages lies a truth the monarchy cannot afford to see printed, broadcast, or repeated, a truth that could shatter public trust, destabilize the crown, and expose the private chaos behind the royal curtain. And as long as that file exists, the silence speaks louder than any denial. New developments are coming. And with the Yorks, nothing stays hidden forever. If you want updates as this story unfolds, make sure you subscribe, because this is far from over.